The Olympic torch there has arrived in New Delhi on the latest leg of its tour around the world before it arrives in Beijing to mark the opening of the 2008 Summer Olympics. Tight security in Delhi, a huge cordon thrown around the torch's procession there. As you can see, celebrities lined up, as in this country, celebrities, sporting heroes, to carry the torch, but members of the public kept well away, and especially Tibetan exiles protesting about human rights in Tibet. About 100,000, maybe 150,000 Tibetan exiles thought to live in India, but as you can see, there's tight security around the journey of the Olympic torch through New Delhi, a route that has been shortened somewhat. Alex Crawford, our correspondent there, was telling us earlier that they estimate that each celebrity, each sporting hero will only carry the torch for a matter of 30 or 40 meters or so. So many of them have been lined up, and the route having been shortened, it ends up at India Gate there in the center of the government district in New Delhi. Elsewhere around the city, protests have been building up, but again, as Alex Crawford was telling us, a huge security operation. So-called hit squads have been put in place by the security services in Delhi, the police, to keep an eye on those Tibetan exiles who have been planning extensive protests. You can also see there in that shot there evidence again of those blue and white track-suited Chinese security officials who were much criticized when the torch was here in London. Some said that they acted in an over-aggressive way, and some of the people carrying the torch, Connie Huck, the former Blue Pizza presenter, said that she felt she was handled a little bit roughly. There we are, we're having a change over there, and as you can see, the Chinese official, the bodyguard, orchestrating the whole thing, and they're 3-4 deep around the torch, in spite of the fact that this is a controlled area. And as you can see, the distance that each person is carrying the torch, must have been about 10 meters before another handover. It arrived in New Delhi from Pakistan overnight, where again a huge security cordon was thrown around the torch, and that all passed off peacefully. But as I was saying, India is not only home to many thousands of Tibetan exiles, but also the spiritual leader of the Tibetan people, the Dalai Lama. The Tibetan government in exile is based in India. So the Indian authorities extremely concerned that this should have a smooth passage through its capital. It will arrive in not too long a time at the heart of New Delhi, at India Gates, where only dignitaries, invited parties have been allowed in through the cordon. You can see even the torch bearer there, wearing the security identification around his neck. I don't think he'll manage much more than 10 meters. Yeah, that'll do me. And on it goes. Alex Crawford was telling us, though, as in this country, it's suspected that several of the people who thought were going to carry the torch have had cold feet, citing injuries and late engagements and things like that, not wanting to get involved with carrying the Olympic torch. We're going to stay with that shot, bringing in Lisa Holland here. And Lisa, I was saying there, it's had a fairly troubled journey, it must be said, around the world, particularly in the European capitals, in London and in Paris, and indeed in San Francisco.
Yes, indeed so, but you know what, looking at that picture, the first thing that actually leaps out at me is the role of the men in blue, who are the Chinese appointed torch attendants and who have been caked in so much controversy so far, because in London and in Paris, the accusation was they're too close, they're controlling the situation, they are oppressive in the way that they're ordering around the athletes, and that essentially that they were taking control of the situation, and that Chinese authority had been coming onto the streets of London, which upset quite a lot of people. These are the guys in blue who Lord Coe, head of the London 2012 committee, had described as thugs in a telephone conversation, which was inadvertently overheard by a journalist. Now, look at where they are now. They're actually not half as close as we've seen them during the previous relays. Now, some would argue, well, that's because they perhaps perceive that the security threat isn't so great because, as Alex Crawford in Delhi was saying, there are these layers of cordons, so perhaps they don't feel the need to be so close. Or could it be that there has been an executive decision to hold back on them, to keep them, give them their distance, to try and dilute the sort of political controversy that's been around them? Essentially, their role is only to put that flame, to light that flame again should it go out, and that they should not be involved in security at all.
So you can still see them, yeah, just a little hand on the shoulder there to say, right, off you go now. And it's those Chinese security people who, as you say, are doing it. It's caused, I know, particularly in Australia, quite a lot of comment, hasn't it? They're saying that really we're not going to have you controlling things as you try to do in London.
I think if people are interested in the controversy that surrounded these men in blue so far, actually Canberra, when the flame gets there on April the 24th, will be the one to watch, because Kevin Rudd, the Prime Minister of Australia, has been quite outspoken on this issue, saying Australia will control security entirely, and that these Chinese guards will be liable to arrest by the Australian police if they essentially manhandle any demonstrators, even if they're saying that they're trying to protect the flame, and that their only role will be to relight the flame should it go out. So I do think Canberra will be quite interesting in that respect to watch next week.
The Chinese, though, must have been under quite a lot of pressure from some governments saying, look, we really don't want the trouble. It's not worth the hassle, I suppose, but the Chinese are adamant, aren't they? This has to continue, the tour has to continue, and it will arrive in Beijing as scheduled.
It's all part of the kudos of hosting the games, if you like, for China to parade this flame around the world, to display the credibility of saying, oh, we're hosting the games this year. The IOC has put faith in us for the first time, you know, the most populous nation on earth, to be having these prestigious games this year. And they see it as part of the deal to be able to go around the world parading this torch as a symbol of you know, how well they've done themselves in getting the games to Beijing. Unfortunately, it's backfired spectacularly from a PR point of view, because it's been leapt on as a vehicle by the anti-Chinese movement for democracy, Tibet, in support of Darfur, and generally about the human rights record of the Chinese government. And these mass demonstrations, which have dogged a number of the relay cities where they've reached so far, have been hugely embarrassing for the Chinese.
Okay, Lisa, thank you very much for that. We'll keep an eye on that. See one of those Chinese guards just telling the last carrier to hold the torch up straight. John Desborough is here with, I suppose that's sporting related. It's a bit like Pass the Parcel, that, wasn't it? You didn't get along with it.